It starts really with Jezebel. She is now married to Ahab. She had been a princess in Tyre, and when she comes to Israel, she imports some of her faith, the Baal faith. Well, how did that go over? Well, some of the Yahwists said, we can accommodate that. A little bit of Yahweh, a little bit of Baal worship. After all, the Baal gods were a little less demanding than the living God. You could just kind of boil them down to a cute little marble statue. Something containable, manageable, portable. Well, into this scene comes Elijah. He comes out of the desert. He went to the same clothing store as did John the Baptist. He wears this camel hair cloak, and rugged outdoors type. He was a devout Yahwist, a radical monotheist. For him, God can have no peers, no consorts, no partners. When you say yes to the mountaintop, in a sense, you say no to everything below it. It can never be God but just God, period. If he were speaking to a group of believers today, he would say, if you believe in God, then you would have to say, ultimately, you do not believe in America or General Motors or the United Methodist Church or family or Rotary or the Braves or the Tar Heels or the Blue Devils or Crest toothpaste. Now, it doesn't mean those things have to receive your scorn or your indifference. In fact, you may align yourself with them, but always with our critical faculties intact. To believe greatly is to doubt greatly. See? So here comes, Elijah onto the scene. This is a great story. It's like the duel at Carmel. Those of you that are in Westerns, this is like the shootout at the OK Corral. Word gets out that there's going to be both a convocation and a contest on the top of Mount Carmel. 450 prophets of Baal. Here's the rules. They'll have their altar. Elijah has his. Well, the prophets of Baal lead off. And, they pull out all the stops. They start doing this nice little two-step jig they've worked out around the altar. Then they go into incantations. They are shouting and singing until they're hoarse. And then they get out knives and start stabbing themselves because they think maybe a little bit of blood will get this thing going. Well, they should have saved themselves trouble. Nothing. They can't even get a spark that would light a piece of kindling. Elijah was really kind of beating a dead horse, but he just couldn't refrain from getting in a gig. Very sarcastic. He turns to the people, the prophets of Baal, and says, I guess Baal is on vacation in Bermuda. Or maybe he just took a nap, something like that. And that gets them, that goads them, and they get up to their feet again, and they go with a greater frenzy, and still nothing happens. Now it's Elijah's turn. What a showman. I mean, he's like a magician. Right before he pulls the rabbit out of the hat. He gets a trench, digs his trench around his altar, fills it with water. And then he gets a bucket brigade, douses the whole thing, not once, twice, 3 times. By the time he's finished, the whole thing's awash, and he looks like he just swam the English Channel. Elijah steps back, and now it's God's turn. Lightning flashes. The water in the ditch, it fizzles like spit on a hot stove. And the entire sacrifice and his altar is just burned, nothing left but ashes and the smell of the 4th of July. Now, something like this guarantees a response, well, even from a button-down Methodist congregation, wouldn't you think? I mean, so the amen corner among the Israelites comes alive, and they say, Jehovah is Lord. I left out something. Right in the middle of all this, Elijah has a homily. A homily is a fancy word for short sermon. That's what you're getting here today. He has this little homily, and this is what he says. He really is not preaching to the prophets of Baal. He's preaching to us, the people of God. And he says, how long How long are you going to go limping between the alternatives? One other version says, how long are you going to go hobbling on one foot and then the other? You think that sermon could be preached today? Of course. You know, in my experience has been that a lot of what passes off as modern doubt isn't really doubt at all. It's more sometimes lack of clarity, conviction, commitment. I mean, we're a consumer society. We buy things, we sell things, we get into things, a lot of things, so many lifestyles, so many identities, so many beliefs. And we may change those like a wardrobe from season to season. This could be preached to a congregation of card-carrying Christians. I know that the blank in the bio that says religion, you say Christian. The blank that says denomination, you say Methodist. But if you do not see faith as an all-encompassing reality, then what do we have? Just a little pinch of religion, just tossed in with a host of lifestyle features. We're good, aren't we? Don't we know that? To this day, we're good at going down in our spiritual basements and cooking up alternative gods. Like what? Oh, well, how about like a house that promises security, a job, promises a kind of comfort, a portfolio that promises protection, a relationship that promises safety, a car that promises prestige, a position that promises power. Listen to those things. They're not bad things. They're good things that we have all the possibility in the world of turning into an ultimate thing. So here we are, modern believers, and we know what it is. Sit on the fence, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Do you hear the urgency in Elijah's sermon? He goes, how long? How long? I mean, he knows what's at stake here. For him, the faith life is a way of life, a way of ordering and aiming one's life. The choice we make there is different than choices we make, like what kind of political theory we're into. In this matter, the refusal to choose in itself constitutes a choice. Remember Alice in Wonderland? She comes along the cat there on the side of the road. They're at a crossroads, and she turns to the cat and says, well, which way am I supposed to go from here? And the cat says, well, that depends on where you want to go. And Alice says, I really don't care. And the cat says, well, it doesn't matter which way you go. And Alice says, well, I want to go somewhere. And the cat says, oh, you're sure to do that. I mean, isn't that life? Life doesn't sit around and wait on us while we weigh the pros and cons of the deepest issues. The stream moves onward. You can refuse to make up your mind, but we can't refuse to make up our life. That gets made up one way or the other. Every day of our lives. We can say, I don't want to think about these things. I'm not really interested in that. We can say that. It doesn't matter what we say or we don't say. Every day we are, by how we live, committing ourselves. God's way, a God-denying way. How long? How long? Well, I think we could be neutral for a long time, sitting on the fence. We can make a habit out of that. The future becomes the repository of our noblest impulses. Haven't you found that when it comes to the most important things in life, we can put those off and away? What would constitute getting off the fence? I really do think it begins with a sense that the faith life is an all-encompassing reality. Every bit and facet of our lives is the arena in which our faith is played out. Remember the Coke commercial? Things go better with Coke? Oh, Elijah would say, no, don't ever say things go better with Yahweh, like Yahweh's the Coke that complements the meal. No, for Elijah, Yahweh is the meal. But how do people like us, how in the world would we move our lives toward that? I don't think it ever really comes in one red letter day where you get to write one big check, that says, here's my life. No. I think what a lot of us have found, to get there, you write a series of little checks, momentary, daily decisions, 36 cents here, 47 there, 85 cents there. I think that's how we get there. It was in another church. We were having this Wednesday night panel discussion. 5 laypersons in the church were asked to say, what was a turning point in your spiritual journey? This one man got up, and this is what he said. He said, when I got on the other side of 40, I began to realize I didn't have any priorities. I said, I think I used to, first, second, third, but now, I said, I was just at the point, I just go where the pressure was felt. A little bit of pressure over here in my business, a little bit of family, a little bit in finances. I just went where the pressure was felt. And he said, I started reading Quaker devotional literature where they talked about God as a centering presence. I thought, how could I get there? Where God's more than just an idea, more than a hobby horse to ride. He said, I remembered how our Hebrew foremothers and forefathers would often put the Shema there on their doorpost. And he says, I took the beginning phrase of that Shema. I didn't put it on my doorpost. I put it on my refrigerator because he said, I go to the refrigerator a good bit. That's how I start my day, he said. So he said, I put it there. And this is the part of the Shema that he put there. The Lord your God is one God. And he said, that became my beginning starting point prayer, that every day I could live out of one centering authority. Well, we got to the question and answer period, and a woman raised her hand and said, well, we heard you describe your habit. Has it made any difference? He said, oh, yeah. He says, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't have problems or my life is easy, but he said, here's what I found. If I can start from that one place, that one centering relationship, it's a way of aiming my life every day. He said, some days I know it does influence the way I regard and respond to my family, the people I work with. He says, sometimes it'll make me look at the stubs of my checkbook, what I've been relying upon, what I've been clinging to. He says, yeah. And then he said something that has stuck with me. He said, as I have tried to move God from the periphery to the center, he said, I have found a center that will hold. Isn't that a great phrase? A center that will hold. I think that's the hope of Elijah's sermon. He's doing a little bit he's kind of rattling the cage of people. How long? There's this urgent plea. But beneath that is the hope that that's what we'll find, a center that will hold. I remember it was 7th grade science class. Oh, he had this teacher, he liked doing these demonstrations. Had a little bit of Elijah in him, He liked to be a little bit of a showman. And I remember one day that he brought out of his desk, he said, boys and girls, this is a gyroscope. And he said, watch this. And he got that gyroscope a-spinning right there on the edge of his desk. And we all went, ooh-wee, isn't that something? And he says, don't you understand, boys and girls? It's because the axis of that gyroscope, it does not move. That's why it can hold a precarious balance. As long as that is stable, you can balance a gyroscope on just about anything, any place. But he says, let the center move, and the whole thing goes kaput. The hope of being a radical monotheist is not that we can say, look how religious I am. No. The hope of being a radical monotheist is that we can say, here it is. I have a center of conviction and identity and belief. And in the midst of the tornado of change and challenge, it will hold. Well, Elijah preached one of those sermons where he just kind of left the question hanging in the air. I don't know how the people answered. The children are going to put that question before. You'll hear it in one of the songs. Maybe you can just feel it hanging in the air. The choice is ours. People of God, what will it be?